Hello everybody, it's Elagatua. I'm glad you're here because this is the game that I think everybody's been waiting to see the recap of. It's the one that I've been hinting in some of the previous videos that we had a very exciting and entertaining and lengthy game coming up, especially compared to some of the games that we've had recently. And this is the one. So we're going to be covering the Smacky Cup 6 today. This is round 4, the division final. So the winner of this game will advance to the top 8, and there'll be kind of a lengthy break, as this game was one of the first division finals, I think, to resolve in the Smacky Cup 6. And in addition to that, we have a new map to talk about. Well, new might be a little bit subjective. We have a new old map to talk about, but we have not talked about it on this channel before. So we are going to get to do a full map breakdown, and boy, there is a lot going on in this map. This is a large map, and as you can imagine, there is a lot to talk about. So this map is called Pipe Dreaming, and it's been around for quite a while. And I think it was even in Global League for a while. And actually, I know it was because the game we're watching right now is actually a very old Global League game that I played on the original version of this map against none other than Get Good, also known as Quackerduck. And I think I actually played maybe 2 Global League games on this map previously. So when I was coming into this map, I was a little bit unhappy when people have like old replays of mine to go off of, because I really like going into games blind and into maps blind. I feel like that gives me a pretty big advantage if we're both looking at something for the first time. But nonetheless, we're going to kind of watch my old Global League game as we break this thing down. Let's take a look at what is going on here, because there is a lot to look at here, and it might be just a little bit visually jarring and overwhelming if we don't kind of step through this piece by piece. So let's look at bases. We got a base here, and we got a base here. We got a base here, and a base here. And then the third neutral base is going to be down here and here. And so you actually start out with a black boat on your opponent's neutral base. And so what's going to happen here is that you need to build some sort of attacking unit that can blow up that black boat, and then that will unlock the third base. So it kind of delays the third base a little bit. And one thing to point out is that in this version of the map that we're looking at right here, this is the old version of the map, the black boat started at full HP. Now, I don't know all the details. My understanding is that having the black boat at full HP caused some RNG issues with like the number of artillery shots needed to kill the black boat. You could with some CO combinations, I guess you could get lucky and like kill the black boat in less attacks than other COs. Anyway, it was a problem. And at the time that this map was originally made, I don't believe that there was the option to have pre-deployed units with less than full HP. Now that's been added. It's actually been kind of added for a while now. So the new version of the map only has these black boats at 1 HP. And these black boats are across this river and sea here, this little chasm, so to speak. And so that means that you're not going to be able to hit them with a tank or some other vehicle unit. And so your only choices to actually kill this black boat are going to be with either artillery or with copters, or, well, I guess in this original game, a combination of the two. But now that it's at 1 HP, you only need 1 attack now to bring it down. So either an artillery or a copter will be what you can use to break that down. And then once you have this third base, you can either use it as an infantry base, and you can kind of hop across this river here with your infantry, or You can still build vehicles from it, but your vehicles have to go all the way around this back path here, all the way around this giant pipe that is kind of blocking access to most of the map. So you can see the pipe. I'm not going to draw the rest of it. But so it's kind of a vehicle base. It's kind of an infantry base. It's kind of up to how you want to do it. And I think it's kind of interesting, the implications of using it as one way or the other. And it depends on what phase of the game you're on as to kind of what you're going to be deploying from this third base. But anyway, those are your three bases. So you got them here, here, and then here. And here, here, and here. And I'm going to mention something very briefly, and then we're going to return to this later on. But you can see here that there is a Piperunner. What is that? A Piperunner? I didn't even know that unit existed. Well, it's called Pipe Dreamin', and so you get a pre-deployed Piperunner. So the way this works is you bust down the black boat, and then the Piperunner can actually move onto the base, and then is able to go onto this pipe, and basically killing the base unlocks the Piperunner to be able to maneuver to either this end of the pipe or all the way to the other side here. So you're actually going to get a Piperunner that fights. It does stuff. It's a thing. And I guess maybe why don't we? We'll come back to the Piperunner. But we'll talk about it. It is a major influence on this map, and that's something that makes this map very, very unique, because I genuinely do not think we have seen a Piperunner in a single one of my games so far, other than maybe some meme Piperunners that get deployed on the last turn when the game is over or something like that. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on with the bases. And for the reinforced paths, for this base, so everything's kind of walled off here behind these mountains and this river section here on the other side. So generally what happens here is this base is going to send guys up to this part of the map, and this base can either go up this way through this forest here, or it can go out here towards like this part of the map. And this is, in theory, more efficient because you're not going through any forests. But if you go straight up here, then you're still going through this forest. So technically, like, this is the least obstructed path, but then you're committing to fighting over here. So if you want to like commit to the middle, then you still got to pay the forest tax either this way or this way. But generally, these bases are going to opposite sides. Okay, so that's the important takeaway about the reinforcement paths. We also have an airport back here, and not too much to say about this. It's just one turn away from both of the bases for infantry to capture, and then it flies over the mountains, so you can kind of get out into that pretty quickly. And let's go take a look at our little diagram now. Here's our little reinforcement paths diagram. And I've put 2 vehicle moves from the airport and from the bases on there. So I could put 3 on there, but then the areas are going to overlap. So what I want to illustrate with this is that there is a large area of the map that is in that contested 3 vehicle move area. And especially the corners even are 4 vehicle moves away from some of these bases. Not all of them, but some of them. So this is a large map. It is very open, and there's a lot of room to maneuver. And I like it. I think this is great stuff. I liked the original map too. Now that they've fixed the black boat kind of RNG issue, like I'm so happy this one's back. This map produces cool games for some tiers, but we don't have to worry about the bad tiers today because we've got a good tier in our actual tournament match. Let's take a look at our comm towers next here. We've got a comm tower here, a comm tower here, a comm tower here, and a comm tower up here. So this is a 2 comm tower map, and the way this works is this is generally the safe comm tower for the player in the bottom left. There's a black hole infantry here. I don't even worry about it. Don't think about it too much. This is Blue's comm tower in the bottom right corner, and this is Black's comm tower up there, and that's your safe one. Okay, so that one is not really contestable and is going to be yours the entire map. However, this comm tower comes online pretty late because in order to access this area, you need to first bust down the black boat. You really need to finish capturing the base, and then you start funneling infantry through this little back passageway here, and eventually you reach the comm tower. But by the time you actually reach it, it's like day 12 or whatever. Now, in this replay we're looking at, this is with the old full HP black boat, so it took a little bit longer in this game than it will to actually reach there, but still, it's going to take a while. So this safe comm tower is not going to be online for a little bit. So that means that this comm tower in the center is probably going to be the first comm tower that you're going after. And this comm tower is very, very important. And we need to start talking about the pipe runners as well in order to discuss these comm towers, because those two elements interact very, very strongly. All right, so what the heck is this pipe runner? Well, I don't think we've ever seen a pipe runner in one of our games before, so we need to just take a second and explain what is this thing. This thing can only move on like bases and pipe seams, and so when you bust the black boat down, you get to choose a direction to send your pipe runner. Either you can send it to the left or you can send it to the right, and eventually you're going to reach the end of the line, and you're going to want to send it kind of all the way in one direction, ultimately being kind of in this area or in this area, because the pipe runner's attacking range is 5 tiles, which is really, really far. And so that is going to reach this comm tower if you put the pipe runner here. And likewise, if you put it here, it's also going to reach the comm tower. And so that's the design here. They're designed to be able to lock the comm towers. Also, pipe runners have pretty good vision. They can see 4 tiles. So if you put the pipe runner here, like as soon as it's over there in the corner, like you can't steal the city anymore because the pipe runner can see it if you're all the way at the end here. And the only reason that that actually worked in this game is because the black boats have the higher HP, and so they took longer to break out. But going forward, that won't be a thing. So these pipe runners are going to get loose a lot earlier, and you're not going to see this city getting capped because that's just not going to really happen. So having the pipe runner be on these tiles makes it very, very important for the comm tower timing, because if you can imagine that the second that Blue Moon ever gets this comm tower, all the pipe runner needs to do is sit here and exist, and there's no way that this comm tower is ever going to get flipped back to the player in the top right corner, because this pipe runner does insane amounts of damage. I don't know if you've looked at the damage tables for the pipe runners, but pipe runners do like 7 HP of damage to infantry on cities. 7 HP. And I think they can like one-shot copters, basically. They're close to one-shotting recons, or maybe they do even one-shot recons. Depends on the defense terrain. And they do like 8 or 9 HP of damage to tanks. This thing is chunking stuff down. So you do not want to be in range of the pipe runner. The counter to the pipe runner is you stay away from where the pipe runner is and you don't get into its range. Because another interesting thing about pipe runners is that they are they are exempt from the fog of war. So even in the fog, you can see your opponent's Piperunner, and they can see yours. And actually, everybody can see the Piperunner because it's visible to observers of the game as well. It's kind of a fun little quirk. So everybody was watching our game, seeing where the Piperunners were going. So you'll know where the Piperunners are. So you can't like accidentally go into its range. The Piperunner's never going to ambush anybody because you can see it even if you can't see it in your normal vision radius. Piperunner is going to lock down this comm tower. Now, normally what's going to happen is what we see in this game. This game is actually the standard thing that happens with the comm towers, where the top right player is going to end up getting this comm tower before the Piperunner has a chance to get all the way here. And then what ends up happening, and likewise on the other side, and then what you can try to do is you can try to flip this comm tower as blue moon here in the bottom left. And the second you flip this comm tower, then you've got the Piperunner covering it, and so it's very, very difficult to flip back. And so the idea is you flip one of these, and then if you're able to hold on to the other one at the same time, well, then you're on 3 towers, and your opponent's on 1, and that's oftentimes, it's not guaranteed, but oftentimes that's kind of a game-winning advantage. So the challenge, though, is if, for whatever reason, the player in the top right does not get this comm tower, and then the Piperunner arrives, even if the other player doesn't get the comm tower, this guy is staying neutral. Okay, there's no way that the top right player is going to be able to steal away this comm tower if the Piperunner is there. Even if you do join caps or whatever, it ain't happening. You have to find some way to deal with the Piperunner, otherwise you're never getting that comm tower. So that makes these comm towers very, very important, because there's kind of a window of time where you need to capture that property or you're going to have a bad time. And fighting 1 comm tower against 2 is not a fun time. You really, really want to have 2 comm towers. 2 comm towers enable a lot of those thresholds for clearing units off of cities. It's a lot of common interactions that everybody's dealing with constantly. It reduces the importance of roll and everything like that. If you've watched any of my videos, you should know that already, so I'm not going to belabor the point. But very important to get those comm towers and get it in the early game before those Piperunners lock them down. Now, you do technically have 2 options about where to send the Piperunner. And I've just been kind of assuming that you'd send it to the right over here and to the left over here. Let's talk about why that is. Because you don't have to, technically. And you can actually get into some kind of crazy situations where if someone sends their Piperunner this way and the other player sends their Piperunner this way, and then you got a Piperunner here and you got a Piperunner here, and nobody's going in this area. It's a thing that could happen, I guess, if the players chose that. In practice, this direction is the strong side, because you got base here, you got a base here, and once you get into the mid to late game, generally both of these bases are going to be producing vehicles every turn. And then you can flex copters in this direction too. And so you just tend to be stronger over here, and you kind of want your Piperunner to be supporting your strong side. And unless you really want to defend this comm tower more than prioritizing the attack on this comm tower, you can play it how you want, but just conventional wisdom is Piperunner goes to this side. If you want to do it the other way, that's fine, I guess, but you're really supporting that side with vehicles from this base and then the airport primarily, and you can kind of support it. If you send vehicles this way, you can, but it's not really ideal because you're losing 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces here. So you're losing almost a full tank move just by setting everything up this passage. So that's the deal with the pipe runners. They're very, very important for locking down these comm towers. And they also just kind of lock down access to this corner. And as we start transitioning into a discussion of contested properties, this is a very important thing to think about, because there's this one little tile here of ocean that is right in the way. And if you have the pipe runner here, and let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically everything inside of here is covered by the pipe runner. And then everything outside this little C tile, up here, is going to be outside the range. So this tile is kind of like the divider, I guess. It kind of forces you to go around and stay outside of the pipe runner's range. So let's talk about our contested properties. In the image where we showed the reinforcement range for 2 tanks, there were a whole lot of properties that fell in the middle. Not all of those are actually contestable in practice. Let's talk about what is contested. So first of all, these 2 center cities, these don't flip that often. They get denied. It's not uncommon to see these stay like uncaptured going into the mid game, depending on how things play out. Comm towers, very contested, especially like these are kind of the win condition towers, where they tend to get captured in this configuration, and then if somebody flips one, then that tends to end the game. So definitely contested, important. Not super easy to flip though, but once you've built an advantage, they can flip. These 2 cities, these are kind of the key contested cities, I would say. And generally what happens is the player down here will get access to these first, because the infantry push from this base actually reaches here first. And the infantry are going to be flooding in this way once that third base is available. But it takes a while, and there's all this stuff in the way that's got to get captured first. So like by day 15 or 16 or so, it's happening a little bit slower in this game than it will in the tournament game. But eventually there's going to be a flood of infantry kind of showing up here. That's going to put pressure on these cities. But until that happens, they're relatively safe captures for the player in the bottom left. And then these 2 are going to be relatively safe for the person in the top right. This game got a little clowny. These 2 cities, they're not really contestable, but this is the old version of the map. So the timing worked a little bit differently. But just like, know for your games on this map going forward in the future, these 2 are not really that contested, because they are always going to be within the pipe runner range when it is at its maximum extension. And or even if it's like back here in kind of the safe position here, we can talk about the pipe runner positioning a little bit more in a second, but in this position here, it's still covering these 2 cities. So unless you've done something to the pipe runner to take it out of the game, those 2 cities are not really that contested. So again, looking at these, this, and these. And then there's some other ones that are kind of secondary contested. I would say like this city, and this city, and this city, and this city. If things get really wacky, maybe you could see those flip. But generally, it's all about the corners, and it's all about the comm towers. And so that's what you're going to be fighting over and trying to flip. This map is quite high income. Even income on this map is 27K. That is a lot. That being said, it does take a while for all of that income to get online, because it's going to take you a while to get to the corners. And you've also got these little properties squirreled away back here. And those just take a while to get to because you are going to be pushing infantry this way at first, and then eventually you'll kind of slip some infantry back here into the corner and over here. But there's like these 2 mountains in the way that are really obnoxious for infantry to get through efficiently. Because like it goes here 1, and then here 2, and then 3, 4. So it's 4 moves all the way to get here, and then you got to capture it, and then you go to this, and then from there the infantry's got to hike all the way back there. So 27k, but it takes a while to get online. But once everything is online, you're generally going to be pumping units out of this airport almost every turn. Because you can do airport plus 3 vehicles. And you can do tech units very freely. You can potentially do tech unit, recon, infantry if you've saved a little bit of income from the previous turn. So in the late game, this becomes a very tech unit focused map. Very air unit focused, unit count focused, and the infantry end up becoming pretty important because once you get into the late game, you're pumping all these vehicles out of your bases, and then you don't really want to make as many infantry. And the infantry, I mean, the map is so big, infantry take a long time to get to the front lines. You need to keep your infantry alive so that you can actually have the ability to put pressure onto the areas that you control. So that becomes a big challenge later on. All right. A few additional tidbits here on the Piperunners. We don't get a lot of chances to talk about these guys. So you're not obligated to put your Piperunner always on this tile here at the end. You've really got 3 tiles that your Piperunner can be on with varying benefits and trade-offs. So first of all, if you're all the way at the end, this is the most aggressive position for the Piperunner. You're locking this comm tower. You are locking the tiles next to these cities, which is going to prevent your opponent from being able to wall access to those cities off. And it's the most aggressive position that you can have. However, there's 3 sides that can actually access this Piperunner. And Piperunners, they're kind of glass cannons. They're indirect units. They don't counterattack. And so if you're able to get units like here, or even like a little bit back here, and kind of get access to this area where you can kind of wall break your way through, then the Piperunner itself can be in danger. And if you get access to the area and you knock out the Piperunner, then you can't rely on that counterattack, and that area control kind of disappears. So putting it here is probably the most beneficial for your army, but you need to have solid control over this area to make sure that you don't get exposed. In this position here, you are locking the silo tile next to the comm tower. So you're not able to attack the comm tower anymore, but this is also a nice tile to be able to control. And this one is a little bit more protected because the access to the Piperunner is now in these 2 tiles. And this tile is very, very safe, generally speaking, as you got this forest tile. So it's pretty unlikely that your opponent is going to be able to get access to here. So you can basically wall with this 1 unit here, and then it's pretty much protected. And on the most exposed sides, you've got pipes on either end, so the Piperunner is not going to be able to be attacked from there. So this is also another good spot if you want the Piperunner to have some denial of this area, but also you don't have like total control of this area. It's still going to be pretty safe back here. And then the third tile is like all the way back here, where this is, you're protected here, and then the access would be from this tile, which is already like, it'd be around the tile here, and you would, in order to even get there. And so this is like the safest that you can possibly get the Piperunner if you're needing to be like really, really defensive. I mean, I guess technically you could put it further back, but if you put it further back than this, then you're not really getting any combat value of the Piperunner at all. So you go 1, 2, 3 in terms of safety, and when you're strong, you put it in 1, and when you're weak, you put it in 3 or 2, depending on kind of how you want to keep it safe. But you gotta try to keep the Piperunner alive. You don't want to give it away for free because it really causes a lot of problems, and it really affects the dynamic of the map. If for some reason you get your Piperunner taken out, things are gonna happen as a result of that. All right, we're getting close to the end of this map review, but there is one other thing I haven't really mentioned yet, because there's a second pre-deployed unit on this map, and there's your own black boat, which starts on your HQ, and you're actually able to move the black boat off and into these shoals, and you get a little bit of access here in this little channel here. You generally are going to want to take advantage of this and move the black boat off of the HQ, but there's no ports in this area, so the black boat is going to eventually run out of fuel, and it is kind of nice to have around, especially for like refueling for air units. Sometimes you can get like a free refuel off on copters as they're flying by or whatever. So additionally, once you're into the mid and late game, you have less infantry, like especially later on, like you're almost never building infantry from this base because it's almost always going to be vehicles. So this black boat's not going to really have that much to do, but there are some like minor optimizations with movement that you can do in the early game with this black boat that does make it worth pulling off of the HQ, so you don't need to just leave it there blocking. So when we get to those in the actual game, we'll talk about what those optimizations are, but you want to try and do the optimizations while moving it as little as possible, because, you know, by day 18 or 19 or so, like it is kind of taking out fuel for both players, and it's not valuable enough that you really want to invest in like an APC to refuel it. It's not that important. So the longer you can kind of leave it chilling just on one square in the mid game, its fuel is going to tick down more slowly, and you'll be able to use it sparingly when you have the opportunity. Okay, we've shifted into another replay because we're going to talk about the COs a little bit in the Smacky Cup 6 round 4. We are going to be playing tier 4 on this map, and this map, unfortunately, because of its very, very high income at 27k, in the other tiers, it can be a little bit of a global damage fest. But in tier 4, we do not have to worry about that, so that is nice. And I've said this probably a million times in my discussions of tier 4, but oftentimes in tier 4, the CO pick doesn't really matter that much as long as you know how to leverage the CO that you're playing. They're all pretty well balanced against each other, and it is very, very rare for a CO pick difference to end up being the thing that decides the game. Okay? That's true on like 95% of maps, and I do think it's also true on this map to a large degree. I would say that there are 2 COs that are pretty far and away the standard choices on this map, and they are going to be Adder and they're going to be Jake. And I don't really think there's a wrong choice. I think it's just kind of vibes to some degree, but there are some differences that you got to keep track of. With Jake, when you get Block Rock, that is going to extend the range of all your ranged attacking units, like your artillery, but your Piperunner is also one of those ranged units. So actually, the Piperunner is going to get battleship range when you have Block Rock. So that is a pretty nice bonus for using Jake. Also, there's a lot of planes on this map. Now, the argument for Adder is that this is a 2 comm tower map, and Adder tends to be pretty good with 2 towers because you don't need to rely on your day-to-day attack bonus or anything like that to be able to clear units off of cities and things like that. Your infantry are very good at clearing off infantry from cities without any sort of other intervention. And additionally, Adders are going to get a lot of powers on this map, and having the extra movement on air units is pretty useful because the income is so high on this map that you're going to want to make a lot of air units. And so you're going to get a lot of powers, you're going to have a lot of air units, you're going to get value out of that. Additionally, there's a lot of cities that are 4 away. So you see, like here, these cities are 4 away, these cities are 4 away, and these cities are 4 away. Like kind of this little triangle up here, right? So with Adder, you're getting that 1 bonus infantry movement. Additionally, if you get an early side slip when you're capping these cities back here, if the movement is kind of annoying because you move onto here. This is like 1 and then 2, 3, and then 4. But if you get a side slip in here, then you go 1, 2, 3. So you can actually cut an extra turn off of the infantry that's back capping these, and that kind of turns into money. It's kind of one of those underrated efficiency things that can happen just because you tend to not get these properties until like day 12 or 13 or so. Like I think Humitai is getting them day 12, it looks like. So yeah, so if you get a side slip before day 12, then you're going to get some efficiency. But I don't think there's too much else to say about the COs. You're not really loving playing Jess here because area is so important and infantry pretty important. It's not amazing for Jess, and for Sammy it's just way too open. It's way too vehicle focused. The income is too high. Certainly, like you're gonna likely be able to get 3 comm towers, so like that is an argument potentially, but I just think Sammy gets blown off the map as soon as the vehicle fights start happening. Okay, I think we've covered everything that we're going to cover now. Let's go into the actual game, finally. Okay, we're here in the actual game, and for the first couple of turns, we're going to leave the lights on. We'll get to why in a second. It's more instructional than anything else, but in this game, I'm going to be playing as Adder, and my opponent, BestMike, is going to be playing as Jake. So you always love when you get a little bit of different COs on both sides instead of the mirrors. And we've got a unique matchup in this one. Before we begin, I guess I can say a few words about my opponent. I'm not super familiar with BestMike. I think they are kind of an up-and-coming player. The ranking is 1300, I think. But BestMike did defeat Fyrum in the first round of the tournament in kind of an upset on that crazy map from round 1. So not a bad performance there, and I think has shown a pretty strong win streak lately in the Global League. So you never really know what to expect, right? Like you feel like you should be, all right, I feel like I probably should be pretty safe, but you never really know what's going to happen. And especially in this, it's Becky Cup 6, I've been playing pretty loose. Let's be honest. I said I was going to start doing some crazy things. I think I've lived up to the billing, although round 3 was kind of a disappointment. But certainly round 2, I put it all on the line, and round 1 was pretty crazy too. So for round 4, I'm gonna mix up with Adder, not a CO I play a ton of. Jake is, very comfortable. But let's start talking about this game, and we're gonna kind of get in for the first couple of rounds. And the thing that we need to pay attention to is this black boat. And this is kind of what I was hoping for. All my replays on this map were from the old version where the black boat was full HP, and so I was like, I still have a chance to maybe get an edge here in the early game just based on kind of map knowledge, because I think everybody's going to be looking at those replays potentially, but actually there are some important differences about what you need to do, because the black boat now dies a lot earlier than it did before. And that means that you have to change the way you do your opener. And actually it opens up some different options, because in the past, you basically needed an artillery. Like it was a forced artillery buy. You got to buy an artillery, and it's got to shoot the black boat a bunch of times. Now it's 1 HP. Now you can do an artillery or a copter. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see the differences between the two. And it is somewhat dependent on how you want to play, but I want to show you some of the nuances here, because I think it's pretty interesting to see what happens. So you can already see that there's a little bit of divergence in the capture order here. BestMike has sent his first infantry this way, and I have sent my first infantry back to the airport. And this is a little bit counterintuitive, because these are both one move away from this base. And generally speaking, if you can choose between a city to prioritize, you want to pick the one that's further forward towards the center of the map, because that will allow you to finish that capture and then ferry that infantry out to, something more contested more quickly. But I'm not doing that. I'm going for the airport first. And there is a reason, as you might guess, for why I'm doing that. But it's not going to be apparent for a couple of turns. We're just going to zip through this a little bit. All the rest of this is relatively intuitive in terms of capturing. So you see there's a little boosty with the black boat. You get onto these mountains, and then you can go for this city very, very efficiently. Or I guess theoretically you could, you can go to this city too, or all the way over here. But you get out on the map pretty quickly. So that's one of the examples of the black boat being helpful. And I've got my black boat here because this is a little bit closer. It's less fuel. So if you kind of swing the black boat like, all the way here and then here, you're going to run out of fuel pretty quickly. So I've kind of optimized the movement on my end to be a little bit less fuel intensive, I guess. So what I'm doing here is now I'm going to ferry this guy up, and I'm going to send him towards the comm tower, this city into the comm tower potentially, and I'm going to delay this capture by 1 turn. More infantry. And likewise, he's going to be doing the same thing. And he builds an artillery. On my end, more capture is happening. But I am building a copter. All right. I promise this is going to make sense in a second. So nice little boosty again here. This is what you want to see. You boost from here, get 1 extra tile, and now this guy is closer to a city. So it's good optimizations there. And the artillery is now ready to pop this black boat next turn. And a T-Copter, but we don't know about this. So we're going to kind of Men in Black remove that from your memory, because we're going to turn the vision off in about a turn here. But this is what I wanted to demonstrate. So when you are building when you're building your artillery, actually, we'll come back to the artillery. We'll see what happens the next turn. Let's talk about the copter first. Okay, this is what I'm doing, right? So I got the copter here, and now I have finished this capture on this city. So you can see I pop the black boat, capture the base. Okay, so the first turn possible to get this base, I've got to capture, because this guy finished this capture at the exact right turn for then the base to be opened up. Okay, and I'm actually skipping over to the comm tower because I know that if I do not get this comm tower quickly, and my opponent, like, you can actually delay this base a little bit and like do an early recon to try and deny this comm tower. So I know, like, this Piperunner is going to be online pretty soon. This black boat's going to die, and then this guy's going to move, and I've got like 2 turns basically to get this comm tower, and I really, really do not want to be in a situation where I get hit by a recon, I can't finish this capture, and the Piperunner ends up here, and I'm playing down a comm tower as adder. Like, I picked adder because I need both comm towers. So I'm not going to risk anything. I'm just going to make sure I get this to not put myself in an awkward strategic position, even if it's a little bit inefficient to be skipping out on this income. So we'll get through the rest of my turn here. More captures happening. And then I now move my Piperunner out so that I can try to get to this comm tower as quickly as possible, because if my opponent makes the same mistake and they don't finish this capture before the Piperunner's in position, then I'm going to have a huge advantage. It's almost like a game. It's almost like a map knowledge loss if you mess up the comm tower timings here. So it's super, super important. Another reason why I like the copter here. So first of all, the copter's not secret. The black boat vision is going to show that it got pinged down by a copter. So that part isn't great. But I do know that my opponent either has to have their first vehicle be a copter or it has to be an artillery. And neither of those things are anti-air. So, and if it's a copter, I'm going to know. And if it's artillery, then I'm going to know. So there's going to be a period of time, probably about two turns, where this copter is going to have free reign over the center of the map to basically counterattack anything that's trying to harass me. And then I'll kind of know, okay, my opponent's going to build an anti-air in response to my copter, but it's day 6 right now, and so my opponent will probably build it on day 7 or whoever's turn goes second, I guess. They're day 6, right? So, and I know that if they, depending on like what they invested in, like the earliest anti-air is going to be this turn or the turn after. So like I know when it's going to reach the middle. So I know when I will need to pull my copter back. But there's a window where I know I'm safe, basically. So I like the map, the control that this brings. Let's look at now the artillery version of this. So my opponent now sees that the Piperunner is going to be there. And so now he also has to jump to this comm tower quickly in order to make sure that this capture completes before the Piperunner locks it down. So it's a good move to not mess this up. But this does mean that this guy's going to capture the comm tower, and then this Piperunner is going to be here and potentially be able to at least get a shot after the capture is completed. So yeah, so artillery pops this guy, but this infantry is not in position to capture this base. It's actually going to take another turn. And another turn delay on the third base. That is 1 infantry essentially being deleted from the game. And so this is why I really do like the copter version of this opener better than the artillery one. And it's not because BestMike messed this up. Okay? This is actually just kind of a mechanical reality, at least as far as I can tell, of the artillery opener. Because you build the artillery here, you move the artillery, and then the next turn you need to basically have the infantry here. So I guess unless you like delay capturing this city, like I did. So you see, I delayed capturing that city. Not only did I go to the airport first, but then the second infantry also left this city to go up here. So I delayed it until later. But you can't like build the artillery, move, and then build an infantry, and then have it here with everything being able to move its full distance every single turn, because you can't build the artillery and the infantry simultaneously. Like what you want to do is you want to have like the infantry here and then the artillery here at the same turn, but it's only one of those things can happen at a time. So unless you set it up pretty well, it's a little bit trickier with the artillery to capture this base on the first turn that the black boat is cleared. So anyway, just kind of little optimizations. I worked very hard on my opener to make sure that I had this infantry in position on the correct turn to get on the base immediately. And I ended up getting, I don't know that this happened until we're watching it now, but that basically was a +1 unit count interaction later on in the game. Okay, and now we are going to turn the lights off because I have made my point about the openers. So we will no longer be seeing things. So anyway, back to the game, and now we're going to go double recon. And we go copter double recon and just try to get some vision on the map. And we need this recon here because what I want to do is the first turn that this Piperunner is in position here, I want to see if I'm able to lock down this comm tower. And this Piperunner cannot see all the way to the comm tower by itself. It needs some vision to help it, and so I need to get that recon to arrive at the correct time, which means it needs to be built this turn. All these timings I planned in advance, as you might imagine. Okay, so we got some more boosties, but you can see I've been pretty efficient with my black boat movement. I've been able to kind of keep the black boat all the way up here, and I haven't had to like run it, all the way down here and then all the way back. So I'm gonna have like decent opportunities maybe later on in the game to get some more boosties going on, and eventually I'm gonna be working my way down here to this tile so I can do the same boost that we kind of saw my opponent do earlier on through the fog of war. Piperunner's in position, and now this is kind of delayed aggro greed, right? We're going to go double recon into copter, thinking my opponent is going to have to build an anti-air, so I'm going to have enough time to be aggro and kind of control the middle, and I can go greed behind this. And also building a lot of air units early. This is good for flexing unit count, and as adder, you kind of want to have an overwhelming amount of infantry in whatever side you're pushing, so that when you get that first side slip available, you have a very decisive infantry fight, and then that can snowball into some other advantage later on in the game. Now, interestingly enough, so in replay viewer, it looks like we are not actually able to see my opponent's Piperunner. But in reality, in the game, I am able to see it. And so the Piperunner is here. Okay. So that's your free information. If it moves, I will try to let you know, but this is at least a minor inaccuracy in this. Now it's back to my turn, so obviously I need to get out of here because the Piperunner is going to shoot at my infantry next turn if I don't move it. But I do want to see what's going on, and unfortunately, we're not going to get the automatic win because this comm tower has been captured at the correct time, but I do get to shoot the infantry, so that's nice. And now that we have pretty good vision of the center of the map, I want to aggressively go for this city that's in the very center because I know that this copter reigns supreme and my opponent is going to be pretty, I guess, hesitant to contest a capture of this city with the copter out, knowing that my opponent's not going to have an answer for the copter. And this copter can just go wherever he wants. He can overextend. Like, we know that there's not going to be an anti-air out on the map. Just mechanically, we saw the artillery, so we know that it's impossible. We get little boosties from the T-Copter there. And we're going to build a mech. Try to get some value out of this T-Copter and just kind of control mid as best we can. So now, yeah, we're going to do the little 2-for-1, and we just put the copter up here. This is way too aggressive, but he's blocking. And so now, if a recon wants to hit this, now the recon has to go on lower defense terrain. And the copter is totally safe. He's just a wall in the sky. And so now this infantry will come back here and kind of finish what he started. I could have tried to go for this property, which would have been pretty cheeky, but I elect to not do that. And just take the safe properties. Don't need to try and get cute. Now we get some tanks out on the board. And we see a recon come and just bonk into here. So looking like this guy was going to try and block me from capping the city. So it's a good thing that I got onto the city when I did. Otherwise, it might have been contested a little more strongly. It is kind of amusing, though, because if I had not captured this aggressively, recon would have ended up on this city. And that actually may have been better for me because, I mean, maybe it doesn't make a huge difference, but if it was on this city, it actually would have activated this recon. But now he's here, and so this recon can't reach, which is kind of annoying. And if it was on the city, then the copter, this recon, and this recon all hit it, and then it's gone, and then I still capture the city, and this recon kind of dies for free anyway. So, it is what it is. But regardless, we see the recon, and we know that there's another turn. There ought to be another turn before any anti-air show up. And we see the artillery kind of pop through our vision. That's kind of interesting. And I think the idea was that maybe the artillery was supposed to go here, and then the recon was on here, and anyway, something like that. But copter, pretty strong. And we're not scared of this recon. We do pick it off there and see everything that we need to see some infantry showing up, capping some safe cities, and this is nice. Now these two properties kind of got our center properties now, and now we can think about maybe denying this city and start to get an income lead, and we send this recon up here. This is a nice place for the recon. It's actually a super nice place for the recon. This is actually a really key tile on both sides. So for one, it's out of range of the Piperunner, which is here. But two, from this base, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is here. Okay. So if you're reinforcing vehicles here, having a recon on this tile is likely to see whatever tanks have been built. And so I was kind of hoping I might spot like an anti-air or a tank Well, I don't want to spot an anti-air, but spot a tank just to see if maybe I've got an extra window of time where this copter is going to be pretty dominant. But I'm not worried about an anti-air or anything like that showing up, so I'm not going to get bluffed off here. And seeing the artillery, I put my recon in the correct place. You got to leave the anti-air. Leave anti-air. What am I talking about? Goodness gracious! Leave the B-Copter very exposed, but we just know that there's no anti-air, so it's fine. And now we move this Piperunner just back a little bit. Seeing nothing here, we've got to be concerned that maybe there could be a tank coming this way. And there's just no reason to put the Piperunner in danger needlessly, because I'm not contesting anything over this side anyway. We get our own anti-air. And we see a tank show up. It was in the forest, actually, so kind of unfortunate, but is what it is. And this is kind of a nice play. Does end up picking off my recon over here, so couldn't counterattack this one. Or I guess could have, but would have been potentially pretty spooky, probably giving up a counterattack onto a tank on a road with a copter and no vision as well. So that's pretty spooky. And now the artillery can kind of go over and support the tank here. So this is a nice little counter maneuver. Did lose the recon for free, but actually ends up getting a recon of his own to kind of equalize a little bit. He's going to take some chip on the infantry, knocking it down to 9, which is going to reduce the pressure on this comm tower. But with the artillery there, now the timing window for me with my copter being uncontested on the map, that's basically over. You have to assume that there's an anti-air now that can reach the front at this point. And so my window to attack and just do whatever the heck I feel like is done. I don't want to let him leave an infantry on this comm tower for free, but I can no longer engage with the copter. So we do have a tank coming, so we should be strong, but we can't actually get onto this tile because the Piperunner. So actually, Piperunner is here. Okay, so this is annoying about the replay bug. I'm trying to remember where I think. So Piperunner moved here to cover this tile. So I want to get this guy out of here, but I need to get him out of here from these two tiles. Fortunately, my recon does have enough movement. I see the artillery on the city, which is good. So I can at least just remove this guy for free. And I guess I can go on the comm tower if I want to. But I'm just going to put this mech over here to cover the recon, because technically fighting is a little bit spooky over here around the Piperunner. So trying to consolidate. I could have left the mech mid, and I kind of wanted to send the T-Copter back to pick up like another mech next turn, but unfortunately the pressure over here is strong enough that I feel like I need the mech with the army. And that's kind of the downside of mechs on this map, is you kind of need the T-Copters to babysit them. It's a big map, and so if you want to get value out of them, you have to really commit the T-Copter to follow them around. So not quite the T-Copter value that I was hoping for, but it is okay. Overall, pretty smooth capture phase. I did get the center city. I know my opponent's not going to have the center city for a while. So income advantage looking, it's something. It's better than nothing. And now getting a second copter here, I feel like with the mech, with the tank, I've got enough that there's not really a threat to this comm tower. I've got a lot of infantry over here, but I am respecting it. I'm respecting it. Infantry retreats. Artillery pulls back. Nice little disengage here. And now I'm like, now I'm thinking, dang it, I wish I just left this mech over here, because now it seems like, okay, my opponent is going to be pivoting towards the center city. And if my mech was just still here, I'd be in position to just pivot right back. But now it's like, okay, the T-Copter went over this way. Now if I want to bring the mech to the fight, I need to bring the T-Copter over this way. But if the T-Copter is just sending the mech places, then the T-Copter is not really making my infantry push more efficient. It's just kind of an 8K tank-ish. But we've got to pivot back now to the center. So we'll do some captures. And now that this guy is over here, we might be able to think about potentially putting some pressure on this city to maybe ambush an infantry going over here. But we'll see what happens later on. In the meantime, moving some infantry. And now we get vision of this city is being captured. We don't want to give this one up for free. So we can deny that. And now we see, okay, we got a copter here. We got a tank here. We're seeing, I think we knew about the tank, but the copter's new. So we can kind of tell, and the artillery's over here too. So everything's consolidated in this area. And so we're just going to follow everything as best we can. And we like having the recon here because now anything that hits the recon is going to be able to be counterattacked by our mech. Would have really loved to have a second mech here. And if we had left the mech here in the first place, we probably could have had a second mech here, but it is what it is. Because any sort of engagement now with the charge as it is, I'm already halfway to the first CO power. So any vehicles that die is going to put me very close to potentially getting my CO power, and having that second mech would really give me an advantage in the potential tipping point of a vehicle battle here. I do get to move the Piperunner back to its more aggressive position here now that I'm capturing the city, and now that I see all the vehicles that are over here. I'm not worried about any sort of ambush here in the darkness to pick off my Piperunner, so just going to move it back there. And we see the copter, so we got an anti-air in position. And we want to try and make as many copters as we can. Lets us maximize our infantry numbers, synergizes with the CO power, and we can fly over these mountains. A new recon comes in. The tank does get picked off here. Or so the recon does get picked off by the tank, but now this tank is near the mech. That is good. So, not terrible. Look at the damage, like we've taken a little bit more damage, but we pretty clearly have some kind of income advantage over the course of the game. We've had this property when our opponent does not have this one. And we know that, I think we had vision of this city as well. So we know that this city is not getting captured. So we're a little bit ahead here. So already, like we're day 12 and we're seeing some positive signs on the income front. And really we just need to keep things stable and continue to fight the good fight and not overextend. And it would be really nice, actually, if we got a CO power this turn, because there's a lot of secondary efficiency going on with the CO power. If we get CO power, this guy is going to get to this city one turn faster. This guy is going to get to the comm tower one turn faster. All that would be pretty nice if we can get it to happen, but kind of depends on what we see here. If we want to go in, and certainly we want to take this mech shot and send it into the tank. That's the dream. And the challenge here for me is that we need 5k more charge. So how do we get it? Well, first of all, we're sending the mech in. We're always doing that. That gets us pretty close. And we need a little bit more than this. And at this point, I see the artillery here, which we were pretty sure it was there. But we also have this tank here. And with a side slip, this tank can reach this artillery, which would be, it's a little bit overextendy, but if we're getting kind of the initiation, then it can work right. But the challenge, like, we need 1.9k more charge. We send in the copter, and that gets us, now we're 400 away, 425 away. I'm not going to belabor all the details here. There's a couple of options, like I need 400 charge. It's basically one attack. So I could sack the 4 HP infantry into here and then side slip. But then if I want to kill this infantry, then I probably need to pull him off, and then he goes in here. And then this anti-air, like, then what does this anti-air do? Because I don't really want to commit the anti-air to one of these guys, because it's going to be really exposed. Like, if it's on this tile, it's really exposed. So really the safest thing I can do for the anti-air is clean this guy off this city, and that at least will leave my anti-air pretty far back, and so likely to be in a defensible position. Another option is I could send this guy into this infantry, but then, and then I'll side slip, and then this guy can try to hit him here, but that's a roll. I mean, it's a decent roll. I think it's like 67% or 70%, something like that. But if that roll fails, then it's a nightmare. So ultimately the options are, I'm just going to move this guy over here. We're going to clear him off with the anti-air, and that gets us exactly, well, 18,025. So 25 extra charge, and now we can side slip, and now we can commit into here. And now the tank shows up, and dang it. There's a copter here. With side slip, this anti-air could have reached that copter, but I didn't have the vision. It's just a little bit unfortunate how it worked out. But I try to make a wall, and like, I'm expecting, okay, this tank's gonna die, this copter's gonna die, but as long as I keep my anti-air alive, then it should be kind of okay. And I tried to really just overload this side here now that I've cleared out some infantry. And now Piperunner's here so that you can't use this tile to attack this infantry. And we're getting all this kind of secondary efficiency that I mentioned earlier. Now we see this. So this infantry is going up to here, it seems like. So that's kind of nice. Piperunner's still here. So we can potentially, we might be able to get some harassment and ambush stuff on this corner. But that's a plan that's hatching and is not hatched yet. And we need some tanks. So let's see what happens here. Another copter comes in. 2 copters in the back lines. Able to clear me out. This is a pretty good engagement. And you can see here, like, I don't have a lot left to fight with because I'm really copter heavy. And I really wish I had like a tank. If I had one more tank, this would be an amazing situation. I could like, you know, send the mech into the anti-air and then send a tank in the anti-air potentially, and then we'd really be in a good situation. But now it's like a tipping point fight, and it's not quite tipping in the right direction. But I still kind of need to trade. Oh, and by the way, after this trade is happening, I'm probably getting block rocked. So you don't want to overextend into the superpower. So we got to be a little bit judicious here. First thing, we're going to finish our captures. So now we're up to 2 towers. So that's good. So now cities aren't scary. So now we can kind of send these 2 guys in here. And they are going to just clear that guy off the city. Which, I mean, we're not going to be able to deny these forever because the Piperunner is too strong. But the Piperunner's here. We're basically trading 1 infantry for 1 infantry. And then ideally, we run the other infantry away and we kind of keep these uncaptured for a while. And, you know, it's starting to add up, right? Like, we've at least, I mean, this fight is going really bad for us in the middle, but we've denied this city, and we got this city. We got this city. This city's like 1 turn behind. We've got this city. Nothing's even capturing this city. We're going to start capturing this next turn. Or even probably this turn, right? Because this guy's going to get there. So anyway. Yeah, so like we are getting the properties faster. And also this infantry is going to get to these faster because I sideslipped. So we ought to be building some level of income lead, even though the fighting hasn't been like incredible for us. And now we kind of need to disengage. We're going to try and take as good of a fight as we can and just kind of trade out some units. But this center fight is lost, unfortunately. And we go in here and we see another copter. So like, good grief, there's a lot of copters happening. And I only have this 1 anti-air. So like, this is not great. And you don't love this. Leaving anti-airs at 5 HP is just... it's not great. It's not great. All you need for an anti-air is it to be up to 7 HP and it's 1-shot in copters again. So leaving it at 5 is like... I mean, it was my mech. My mech hit a tank. He hit an anti-air. He had a good life. He did his job. But don't completely love it. Because this anti-air is... it's not really knocked out of the battle, to put it mildly. And now we retreat the rest because everything else is like... we're accepting that we're losing this fight because we're going to get block rocked potentially. And all this stuff is going to go away. And now we realize we need some anti-air. And we're just staying far back because it's like, this is... we just don't want anything silly to happen, right? So the Piperunner cleans off that infantry, which is fine, getting vision from this guy. But this is kind of okay because we've got the recon and the other infantry here to potentially ambush this guy and potentially delay this even more. The block rock goes off, which is what we wanted, by the way. We want the block rock to be spent here. But we are going to get slapped pretty hard in the middle here. Okay. Well, what are we looking at here? We're down 2 units. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Down like 8k in damage taken. But we ought to be winning on income. It's kind of hard to know exactly how much we're winning on income. We would love to ambush this guy. We see this tank. So that ambush has been canceled. That ambush will not be happening. We are going to be running away up there. And now the plan is we want these. We've got these. We killed this guy, which is going to delay the push towards my cities here. And we want to get these before he can get these. And if that happens, then all of a sudden we're going to be up a pretty substantial amount of income. And we can kind of transition that into winning the game. So even though we lose this fight in the middle, it's not the end of the world yet. So our response here is we're just going to give up on the middle. We're like, okay, you won this fight. You're going to get this city. But now we're going to focus towards the corners. And we're going to hope that we can focus on the corners faster. And you're going to need to stay in the center while you consolidate on this city. But by the time you consolidate this, I'm going to be in a position to threaten this. And we're going to be one step ahead. That's the idea. Now in the top left, we need to run away. We are running now. And we're just going to move one tank over to consolidate down here. But really, we just want to back off and play defense. Make sure that we don't lose any of this as a result of losing this center area. And we make sure we don't want to lose this city especially. Like, if we can hold on to this city for another, 2 turns, then this income lead that we've built up should start to manifest itself in the units that we're actually able to bring to the fight. Yeah, so you see the infantry over there, so that's something that we need to deal with. Recon backs off. Okay, now this is getting interesting. Unfortunately, I don't really see what I want to see with this movement. So he's backing off here. And this infantry move to the corner kind of makes it seem like he's just giving up on these 2 properties. These 2 properties are going to flip to me. And it seems like he's going to control the middle. We know that he's likely going to take this property this turn. We need to defend this property as we can. And the Piperunner is here. And I set up a plan last turn that I didn't tell you about. Because I want to be strong enough to take these properties, and I'm kind of threatening like I'm shifting everything this way. But that's not what's actually happening. I am consolidating over here because these copters are positioned in a very specific place. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 away from the Piperunner here. And I've got charge. And so what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to go in and kill this infantry. Killing this infantry is going to buy me some time with these properties. And sure, the recon's probably going to die because we know that there's a tank up here, so the recon's going to go away. And his infantry probably is going to get cleaned up as well. But if you kill the infantry, then it doesn't really matter if you don't have vehicle control over the area. It's still going to take a while for those to flip. And so my goal is, okay, if he's going to concede these, I'll take these, and I'll delay these long enough that I get a really substantial income advantage out of that to the point where hopefully I can just eventually just be strong enough to defend these and never lose these, still have these, and I'll be up 4K. And that should be a pretty strong way to close out the game. The easiest way for me to defend these is to kill this Piperunner. As soon as this Piperunner is gone, this area becomes actually very difficult to control because I can just kind of chill in this area and in this area and the reinforcement lines are actually very favorable for me because it's so close to this airport and it's so far away from this airport that without the Piperunner to kind of stabilize and keep me out of this area, it's pretty tough to actually control this corner. So we are going to go in with our recon and make sure that there's nothing here. And now that we see nothing there, we are just going to go for it. And we're hoping that all of the forces are consolidated around here and not consolidated up here, because we're just going to YOLO these copters in. Well, in a second. We're going to hit this infantry first. And also the power lets me capture both of these properties this turn as well. So that's, again, like the adder infantry movement bonus, very, very helpful for tempo. And tempo is what is helping me gain an advantage in this match. So we go in here. We see the tank in the forest, which is fine. And we pop this guy off. Maybe questionable sending the second copter in, but basically I'm gambling that he can't take out both of these copters. Well, first of all, if both of these copters survive, the game just kind of ends. It becomes very, very favorable to me. Maybe it doesn't end immediately, but strategically it's very, very favorable to me. If one of the copters dies, that's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm expecting there to be like kind of one anti-air, either like here or here. And I assume that one copter will probably die. If I can get one copter out of there, that's still okay, because removing the Piperunner allows me to delay this game and then give time for my income lead to really manifest itself. If both copters die, we are going to be holding on to our butts. But this is a big risk. This is a big commitment on my part. And mostly I kind of did this because it felt fun. What I was hoping to see was my opponent kind of pivot from here to like here to defend this, and then also try to defend this, and that didn't happen. So it increases the risk a lot. If my opponent consolidates here, the chances of these copters being able to get away scot-free is pretty high. But since that didn't happen, I'm likely to take losses, and I'm just going to commit to it anyway because it's fun. The Piperunner goes down, and that gives my opponent a lot of charge, and it forces me to burn my power on a turn where I'm not really doing a huge amount of fighting. I can delay this just a little bit, and I'm kind of hoping that by delaying this one turn, I will force my opponent to stay here. And I'm not going to be able to contest this long term, but in the short term, we're giving up a little bit to potentially gain a pretty substantial income lead. And now we're going to consolidate over here on this left side, because when these copters escape, they're going to need support. And now it's neotank time. We've had enough money for tech for a while. We've been kind of spamming copters. We've got a lot of anti-air out because we've noticed that our opponent really likes to make copters. Every single time that we see his army, he shows up with more copters than we're expecting. So I've got 3 anti-airs and like only 2 tanks over here. So we're like really copter and anti-air heavy. Not a lot of tanks, but now we need a neo-tank because we're expecting our opponent to have neo-tanks as well. Because this is just a map where you're going to end up fighting against some tech units. Let's see what happens here. So it ends up killing this infantry here. And the 7 HP anti-air does show up, which is the one that we hit with the mech earlier. So it got repaired. So unfortunately, this guy was still in range. So we're not going to get away completely free. We do lose 1 copter. And he join caps this as well. So you always love to see that. So we sacked an infantry in to delay this a turn. And we did delay it a turn. And that infantry essentially killed an infantry. So this was actually a really good trade for me. Sure, he'll get this property next turn, but anytime you get a join cap like that, feels pretty good. And now this infantry is going to be capturing this, but like there's no infantry over here. So when is the soonest that we're going to have to defend these properties? So it's not going to be for a while. See the copter or 3 HP copter show up. And the 1 HP infantry just kind of sacks it on this infantry. Doesn't even do any chip damage. I mean, it had no good options anyway, so I suppose that's the right move. And it couldn't have sacrificed into any of the city infantry to delay it. It wouldn't have done enough damage. So not bad overall. We take those cities. Now we're up to 28k. And when we get this corner, we're up to 29k. So that's pretty good. That's a 4k income lead for us. And now all we want to do is stall. We have 4k income lead for sure. And the challenge is, okay, you got the income lead. You don't want to fight immediately, actually. Like, that income lead is purely in the units that you are deploying next turn. So it's not at the front yet. And we also just sacrificed some army value to take out the Piperunner. And so now these KD stats are going to be a little bit misleading because 20k of this is in a Piperunner. But my Piperunner is not mobile. So if we're fighting over here in the top left corner with all of our army, I've got 20k of army value on the map that is doing nothing. So actually, in practice, I'm almost 18k behind in terms of damage done. So my army should actually be weaker than my opponent's, unless we're fighting into the Piperunner. So you got to kind of know when the stats are a little bit misleading. So what I want to do now is I want to stall. I want to stall this game, and I want to do nothing for the next 4 to 5 turns, ideally. And if nothing happens for the next 4 to 5 turns, then that 4k advantage is going to start showing up at the front lines, and it's going to start making up for the 18k that I'm behind in army value that's actually going to show up to the fight. But it's going to take time for that to happen, so we need to find a way to try and avoid fighting, see if we can defend these cities in a way that does not involve us committing to a fight. So now I'm at the 29k because I finished that cap. So now we're just going to get out of here. Our job is to run away. Unfortunately, I would love to like use this copter and this infantry to like kill this guy. Like that would be incredible. But unfortunately, this anti-air is just in range to cover this city. So we're not going to be doing that. So we're just going to be running away the only place that we can. And then we'll kind of make our mad escape this way. As long as he gets out, it's fine. We're not going to bother interrupting this infantry. He's going to take forever to get to these 2 properties anyway. It's better for us to just retreat to the corner here and have him as a backup option. And we kind of don't mind if we bait our opponent in here. Because this corner, this should be a good place for me to fight. So if he wants to come in here, like, okay, we can commit to a fight over there. It's very far away from the reinforcements. And now we're just going to chill out. Wait for our Neo-Tank to arrive. Play defense. And get an artillery now. So artillery is just... When the artillery finally arrives, then we can just kind of lock in on these center cities. Won't be under a lot of pressure. And we can play far behind in this area. And it's very hard to break this area. Like this is kind of the center of all the reinforcements from all these bases. So if he wants to fight over here, like that's the best place on the map for me to fight now. Now, especially now that the Piperunner is gone. So we would love that. And we're gonna get some more mechs out. I'm just gonna lock it in. Play defense. Tank retreats. We see a recon show up here. What's that? The tank moves back. You see the artillery is almost all the way repaired up from its earlier tank break. And things have kind of slowed down a little bit. And we see a recon here, artillery here. The question is, where is the attack going to happen? So now Jake has to do something. The board state vastly favors me. The Piperunner is gone. I've got a 4K lead. And now there's some timing window where Jake has to make something happen. And if Jake can't make something happen, this board is just going to slip away because my income lead is going to be too big. So he has to attack somewhere. The question is he attacking down here? Or is he going to attack over here? Or is he going to attack down the middle? So that's what I want to know. So I want to know and try to send this 1 HP recon. It's kind of like a bait recon, because this is like, it's an annoying position for a recon to be. We know this infantry is here because it finished capturing the city. So this is like far away enough that if you want to kill this 1 HP recon, you have to commit a vehicle. You have to commit a vehicle to a place where the vehicle's gonna die, because I ought to be very, very strong in this area. And now we're just gonna hang out. The Neo tank here, and we're just kind of positioning around this pivot because, in my opinion, so all these infantry up here are really, really far away from threatening this corner. So if there's an attack that's going to come this way, I've got some time to figure it out. And I'll see it coming because I've got the Piperunner, recon, whatever. I kind of think it's going to come this way and it's going to threaten this property. And I've got this recon here to watch this pivot here. Because if he's going to shift to this corner, then a whole bunch of stuff is going to have to move in this direction. And so because I see this tile here, any sort of shift this way is going to get seen unless he actually goes in and clears out the recon, which should be a favorable trade for me. So this is my plan to kind of stall the game, know where I need to be. I am a little bit spread out though. I do have 2 tanks down here in the bottom right, and the rest of my death ball is up in the top left. We're just trying to spread out here. Now we go for another Neo tank because now we've got all this money. So we want to invest that into tech and try to get some power units to the front very, very quickly so that that income lead turns into army lead, turns into fighting victories. All right, let's see what happens here. So recon comes in, hits this infantry. And I put this infantry here on purpose because I knew that if I didn't put that infantry there, then the 3 HP B-Copter could just trade into the recon, which I don't really want. I want him to commit the recon at least, so that it's like, you know, a recon and an infantry for like a full recon and a copter, something like that. And this gives me the ability to potentially hit this infantry. And if this infantry gets damaged, then the pressure on these cities will be delayed even further. And I'm really just trying to delay here. But he does go for the recon and clears it out. So this recon actually retreats over here. He gets replaced with an infantry, which is interesting. And that's it. So what should we take from this? Let's look at this board state. And really, there's only one question that we need to try and solve for, which is, where is the attack coming? My opponent has to attack. We know they have to attack. They can't leave the board with a 4K income lead for me for much longer. Otherwise, it's going to get out of control. So you look at this board. Figure it out yourself. Is the attack going to come this way? Is it going to come this way? Or is it going to come this way? Well, if I had to guess, I think the attack is probably going to come this way. This side, it's weird for an attack to come this way when the recon retreated. This, to me, looks like a wall. A wall of infantry to delay and deter any attacks up in this direction. Still could be in the middle here, but it does seem likely that it's coming to the top left. So really what the game plan is here is we want to try and trade into these units, kill the infantry as best we can, and then try to take a fight around here that just delays this. And as long as we don't get totally blown off the map here in the top left corner, we should be in a pretty solid situation. I want to go see what's going on here. And especially, I want to know where you set up. It's kind of hard to have a lot of stuff in this corner because it's just very awkward, especially like having air units up here or having tech up here. Like, because you needed to have it here originally, just out of vision, and then it would all have needed to shift when my 1 HP recon died. It's not impossible, it's kind of unlikely, and we don't really see a ton of stuff here with this recon. So I'm like, okay, I can probably just go in and clean this stuff up. So go in with the copter, see a tank here, but we want to kill this infantry for sure. And then we want to get rid of this recon. Unfortunately, I think there was a chance that this recon could have died. I don't know exactly what the roll was, but it wasn't a huge roll. I think it was like 30% or something like that. But this recon stays alive at 1 HP, and so we need to commit the second copter. But this is pretty far back. I'm not really anticipating that he's going to dive on this too much, because you're starting to get pretty close to like 2-turn reinforced range from the bases and from the airport. So this is still pretty good territory for me. Like this area, sure, that's tough for me to defend, but this area should belong to me most of the times. And so moving this recon over here just to try and get a better picture. And so this kind of further confirms what I'm seeing here. This seems like there's kind of nothing here. This is like an infantry force, maybe with the artillery chilling out and a recon just seeing if I attack here. But I'm guessing that all the stuff is like here or here, maybe some stuff here. So we're just going to be chilling in the bottom right corner, and we want to defend over here. Unfortunately, we really need like 1 or 2 more turns before we're ready to fight, because we got all this stuff invested in the artillery and these mechs here, trying to get value of the T-Copter and trying to utilize this third base to project as much power as possible to this side, because we know that that's probably where the fight's going to happen. But these mechs are just not that mobile, and they're kind of stuck defending the center, and I can't really get them up here very easily. So I really want to have like another turn or two to get these mechs over here where they can help and get this artillery where they can help. So we're kind of frantically pulling everything to the top left corner here. It's a little bit unfortunate we built the Neo tank from this base instead of this base last turn. We were anticipating that the attack might come middle, but it is actually likely to come up here. But that's one of those little details that it's a little bit unfortunate, because now it's got to kind of run around this way and then potentially go this way, which is maybe going to keep it out of the fight for an extra turn, depending on what happens here. We just put the tank here. I feel like this is pretty safe spot. I'm not expecting a big dive in here, because this is pretty strongly my territory, especially with the Piperunner gone. Like this is a very strong area for me. And this is this tank is 2-turn copter reinforce range. So extending into that area is gonna give me the ability to add a lot of this income, my elevated income. It's gonna get it into the fight very fast if a fight happens here. So I'm kind of okay with that if it happens. Anti-air comes in. Anti-air comes in again. And wow, he's really going for it. And all my stuff gets taken out when a Neo tank shows up here to remove the infantry from the city. And then this city gets capped. So there's another infantry that was over there. So this is not getting delayed as long as I wanted. And then this guy comes in and just pot shots the tank, which I wasn't expecting either. Like, this is a pretty big dive, but it actually is pretty annoying, because I am not doing so good on tanks. Like, if you look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks now, and I have 1.5. Not ideal. So we did have the right idea of what was going to happen here, but boy, we took a pounding that previous turn. And if we look at this, this is starting to look pretty ugly. There is a timing window here that he has to hit in order to flip this corner. But now I kind of need this extra income to stay mine in order to continue having the bigger army. Because if you look at the damage taken now, I'm 20k behind on damage. But even that is misleading, because it's also including this Piperunner. So it's really, I'm 40k behind in terms of units that I can bring to this fight. And it's even worse than that too, because I've got these 2 tanks down here in nowhere land, and I didn't use the opportunity to try and front shift them the previous turn. I left them down there because I wasn't totally convinced that he wasn't trying to plan an attack down here. So these guys are out of position. So if this is truly everything in this corner, I'm actually in a pretty bad position. But there is something that I can do here, because this Neo tank is on a road. And what I can do is I can send this tank into the anti-air. And what I want to happen is I want this to basically counterattack and kill the 3 HP tank. And there's about a 70% chance that that will succeed. And if that happens, then I can sit. So I do this, and then this breaks a hole here. Then from there, I can sack the 1 HP copter into the infantry here, and then use an anti-air to finish off the infantry on the city. And from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, side slip. And then this Neo tank can hit this Neo tank from the city. And if we do all that, that is likely to stall this thing out enough that the income advantage should, we should be able to make this work. Even though we're 40k behind, because we're 40k behind, but then this copter is going to die, this anti-air dies, infantry dies, and Neo tank on a road takes a 2 comm tower plus CO power hit from the Neo tank. that's going to equalize things a lot. And then probably what's left over, I can clean up this tank with the copter, and then it'll stall things out enough. So that's my plan. But the problem is that we do need this tank to successfully sack into the anti-air in order to make this plan work. And now everything is terrible. Now everything is terrible. So there's a couple things that I can do now. So I need this 1 HP copter to hit this infantry so that it becomes a one-shot with the anti-air. If I power, and then I try to send the anti-air into the infantry, it still could one-shot. Still could one-shot and allow me to get to this Neo-tank. It could, but it's only like a 30% chance. And if I send that anti-air in the infantry and I don't get it, we're starting to like fall further and further behind. And we do need to win this fight. Like, we're going to get block rocked almost certainly next turn. And if that block rock wipes this whole army out, then the income difference is not going to matter. Because he's going to control this corner, the income's going to equalize, and then he's going to be way ahead in army value. And sure, he doesn't have the Piperunner, but he'll have total map control. And so he can just bully me out of the center, and I'm going to be cooked. So losing this roll was catastrophic. There is one option, though. I could try to YOLO and see if there's nothing in this forest. And if there's nothing in the forest, then the plan works as originally advertised. And I'm kind of tilted, to be perfectly honest. I'm pretty tilted that I didn't get this roll, and I'm feeling under a lot of pressure because I know that I'm down 20k. These guys are out of position. I really, really want this Neo-tank to get hit. And so I just go for it. And I bonk into a recon. And at this point, I'm like, this is starting to look like it might be a lost game. This might be a lost game. We're losing this city next turn. It's going to go down to 2k. Maybe, we don't really know when this city is going to be capped potentially, but we got to at least trade into the copter. So I side slip here because I might as well. And we see the rest of the army here. See the 2 copters and the Neo-tank. And by the way, the most frustrating thing about this is that because we see these 2 copters here, this is validation that our original plan to sack or to go into this Neo-tank would have worked incredibly. It would have been absolutely devastating because these 2 copters would have been isolated from the fight because they're 1 square too far away. So they don't cover the Neo-tank. So if I had my Neo-tank here, I'm probably getting killed by these 2 guys. But it's a pretty good trade overall. It's a trade that delays things a lot. And it keeps me this property for likely another 2 turns. And so that trade ends up being all right. But now we're trying to delay captures in the corner. Like, if we can kill all the infantry, then maybe we can kind of stall this out a little bit more. But now we've committed like a lot of stuff here. Now we've committed a lot of stuff, and we've actually committed so much stuff. We can't continue going in here. Like, we actually cannot commit the Neo-tank to kill any of this stuff. And we'd love to kill this anti-air, but we have no tanks left to do it. So this anti-air is just going to survive. And if my opponent just goes in and just wipes out all the stuff and then saves the block rock, well, then what do I do? Then I've got, I mean, just look at what's going to be left over. Not very much. He's already got 2 Neo-tanks against my new tanks. He's got more copters. He's got way more tanks than me. He's got as much anti-air as me. And he's got block rock. So I'm just going to get wiped out. So I'm like, okay, well, this is looking kind of like a lost game. Unfortunately, the timing window of me kind of going in for the Piperunner, I lost kind of just enough. And then things have played out where I lost just enough with the copters. I didn't get the roll that I wanted, and then I didn't get the roll again with the tank. And I'm kind of bleeding out just a little bit too much every single turn. And all of a sudden, this timing window is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if I lose the engagement after this, then kind of doesn't matter that I've got the Piperunner down here. He's not going to be able to fight in the battle. And these tanks, they're not going to be making it to the battle either. They're too far away. They needed to be a little bit closer. So this, I mean, yeah, this kind of looks like a lost game, honestly. I was assuming that this game was kind of over, and the rest of this turn is a little bit just of a give up play, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to set up around this Neo-tank here on this pretty good terrain with my mechs that are out of position, with my artillery that's out of position. I'm going to build this secondary wall here. And I'm going to leave all these guys to die because I can't do anything about it. And basically the only way that I'm going to be able to stabilize this is if somehow, like, he decides to block rock and take all this stuff out and then also commit into this really, really insanely strong defensive position. Because I do have CO power popped. So, like, this Neo-tank is getting HQ defense on this city. And if you attack into this Neo-tank, then you probably have to clear off these infantry. And then that's going to activate these mechs. And then it's also going to activate this artillery. So basically, as long as he doesn't block rock and eat everything into my pretty strong defensive position here in the center, I'm probably going to lose. Because the numbers are just going to be overwhelming. And so I build a bomber here because this is like, I'm just trying to get as much money into this fight as quickly as possible as I can. I know that this bomber will get here in 2 turns. And so if for some reason he does commit in here, this fight is going to take a little bit to resolve. And so I need the bomber because there's 2 Neo-tanks. So like the bomber is going to get some value, almost certainly. If the bomber takes out a Neo-tank, then that's great. So maybe that's just some way that I can kind of compensate for the pretty massive amount of damage that I'm going to take this turn. I do actually manage to almost equalize the army value lost, although it's the Piperunner, right? So it's always 20k worse than it actually is. So even though like we're kind of equalized here, I'm still about down 24k in units that are going to show up to the fight. And I'm getting superpowered here. So it does not look that good. And let's see what happens here. Immediate block rock. 1 shot. Takes out the infantry there. Recon comes in, sees everything. Sees the artillery. Sees the mech. Okay, he's going in. Wowza. Okay. I guess that was worth more than the artillery because he can come in with a recon. Ugh. Well, that's not good. That's not good. I'm down now 60k in army value lost. And with the Piperunner, it's 80k. Looking pretty bad. Let's take a moment and let's reflect on 3.5 smacky cups of excellence, right? We've won the division, 3 straight smacky cups, won 2 smacky cups in a row. We're in the grand finals, another one that's going on right now. We're in the grand finals of the Quack Cup that's coming up. It's like a 30-game tournament win streak. But we knew there was going to come a time when this thing was going to run out and I just played a little bit too loose and things got out of control. And like, credit to BestMike. BestMike has played really well in this game. And set up a great ambush in the top left corner. And I bled out just a little bit too much here. And now this is pretty rough. That being said, it does attack into both of my mechs and my artillery and my reinforcing Neo tank. And this is very, very overextended. So if I can find a way to stabilize this, then who knows what could happen. But this is a lot of stuff. Let's see what I can make with this. So first of all, I just go in here. This is kind of a little tilt move, and I play right into his hands and just go right into the artillery there that was waiting for me to do exactly that. Because I'm kind of thinking this is over, right? A little bit of a give up play, but we see this and like, okay, well, we can't further commit here. So we'll eat our loss here. I was hoping that maybe the artillery had front shifted to the other side as well, but that's not the case. So let's see what we can do. We can at least get this copter, because we do have the anti-airs ready for the copters. So we are going to get these guys on pretty good terrain here. We're just going to try and maximize our charge. T-Copter, you are going to be blocking. Your job is to absorb an attack. So we kill that. Get to see what is coming in the future. And the mechs, I mean, this is a great place for a mech to be. And now we've kind of maximized the stuff that we can do without our power to get as much charge as possible for next time. Copter goes in. And hey, that's one Neo tank down. And we've trapped this tank. So this tank is going to have to hit something. Now, it's going to hit this anti-air almost certainly. So it's not like an amazing efficiency trade. It's going to get a lot of value. But at least this tank can't escape anymore. So there's no disengage. And the mechs are getting incredible value. Like, takes out a recon for free. And this guy got a hit on a recon as well. And we kind of retreat a bit. And we just build a wall. And another thing that's nice, so having this recon here allows me to see what his vision is. And so now these tanks, they've arrived to the fight finally. How different it would have been had they been one tank move closer, right? This fight would have looked very different. Probably this recon dies and probably this tank dies as well, in addition to what happened. Maybe it's a pretty strong victory for me, but regardless, I do keep these guys out of vision. So now there's going to be like an extra 2 tanks showing up to the fight next turn. And actually, the balance of power over here is strongly favoring my opponent, but he's so far back that by the time he actually is able to try and exploit the power advantage over here, it's going to take a couple of turns. And I'm just hoping that I can somehow turn the tide here strong enough that by the time I start to lose this area, that I've managed to salvage the game. So down here, I'm just going to be trying to pull these guys back, and we're going to rely on our Piperunner to try and bully him and delay as long as we can down here. We've kind of thrown away our unit count advantage, and there's a T-Copter here as well, and so that's kind of concerning. So that is going to potentially accelerate the push to this bottom right corner that is likely to be happening, but we're going to do our best to delay as much as we can. We do have an anti-air coming in the bottom right. We do have the bomber showing up, so we did take out one Neo-Tank, and now we've got a full Neo-Tank and a bomber as well. So this is why it's dangerous to take big fights in overextended areas, because you can't really disengage this. Okay? It feels horrible to try and retreat here. We're still behind in the damage dealt. We're behind about 10k plus the Piperunner, which is about 30k. But we have had a 4k lead for a number of turns now. And it's down to 2k, but it's still, I mean, it's going to persist for a little bit while longer. And so it's not insane to think that 30k is close to compensated for by my income lead over this entire game. Because we had the 1k lead from this city for a while too. We made a couple turns of 4k, so maybe we've got like 15 to 20k of an income lead over this entire game. So it's not, well, if this fight continues deep in my territory, it is not insane to think that I could actually win this fight, especially when I have pulled everything over here. And I've got this bomber that's showing up to the fight after 2 turns, which is like, 22k worth of income joining the fight, 1 turn faster than my opponent's reinforcements are going to be able to arrive. It's not over, but we're holding on to our butts for sure. So recon gonna get cleaned up here. And an anti-air shows up over here. So now this is actually even more stuff over here. So my opponent is kind of way stronger. Got anti-air and artillery over here and a lot of infantry, and I've got very, very little. But if my opponent is overcommitted down here, that does give us some hope up here. And commits the copter. Commits another copter. And this mech did great. Forces this recon to overextend into this pretty terrible terrain here. All my anti-air is going to get cleaned up, unfortunately, so that's not ideal. But this T-Copter does amazing work, because this T-Copter is saving the life of this Battlecopter. And that Battlecopter is worth a lot more than the T-Copter is going to be at this point. And the Neo-Tank does come in and trade into my Neo-Tank. But again, this is a very, very overextended position. And so the fight is going to continue on for another turn. And now, this is going to get cleaned up. This is too deep for too long. And this city doesn't even get capped this turn, so this is going to survive for another couple of turns. So now, I just get to brawl as well as I can. Clean up the anti-air. We see nothing else. To one-shot the recon because it's on a road. Get a little bit lucky with that roll. That was, actually, I wouldn't say a little bit lucky. I think it was like, I forget exactly what the math was. It was like 95% or 90%. But we really needed that roll to go through. And that allows this copter to just trade in. And we're just trying to trade it. Just trying to trade, and now the bomber comes through. Neo-Tank is dead. This mech I mean, what a mech. What a mech. Killed a recon. First hits a tank, brings it down to 3. This tank comes into here, and all of a sudden, look at my positioning here. I've got all the high defense terrain here. This is going to be pretty hard to break. Now, the unit count doesn't look amazing because, you know, there's 3 HP tanks, 3 HP tank, 4 HP copter. So, like, unit count's looking a little spooky. But I think I'm winning this fight. All of a sudden, that army value damage is starting to creep more and more even. Still with the Piperunner, still down a little bit, but it's getting better every single turn. And the army, or the unit count, well, it's not a huge difference anymore. It's only about 3. It's not, I'm no longer dead. And now we can delay this push one more turn just by sacking this infantry. We're just going to try and stall for time down here. Maximize the time we have to bring reinforcements, because we should have, we're continuing to have the income leads. Every turn that this goes on and we're not equalizing is going to be better for me. I'm going to be able to get more stuff to show up. And now he can't disengage here. He has to continue to dive because he needs to be able to kill this bomber with his anti-air. There's no way you can just let this bomber go after I one-shot the Neo-Tank. It's a terrible trade. If you disengage now, it's really horrible. So you kind of have to keep committing, but this positioning on the board is very, very difficult to fight into without the Piperunner. And he saw everything before he committed to this fight. So this was his decision to go for this. He's going to be able to take out the recon, block rocks. He's going to be able to take out the bomber. A lot of copters. The fight's going to continue for another turn here. Infantry does get taken out. But this terrain holds. It's still me fighting on the advantageous terrain. Now, I've needed every single last unit to be able to hold on for dear life up here. It's a good thing that I finally front shifted those tanks from the bottom right. Otherwise, things would be very, very different. And sure, like, I'm very weak over here, but it's happening slowly. Nothing's fighting here yet. Nothing's capping here yet. I don't need to commit yet. And now I can power. Because my bar is full. And not only am I going to power, I'm going to get power next turn too. If I want it. We go in here, and now we've got more stuff. We can just start cleaning stuff up. That mech, what a bro. And we do get the nice roll on this copter. Take another tank, and we just wall here. And now we're just cleaning up unit count. Because I could have tried to interrupt this cap if I wanted to with him, but the income now is actually not that critical. The only thing that matters is winning the fight. If I win the fight, I can get these back because the Piperunner's gone. So we can let this go for a little bit. The effects of this will not manifest themselves in the fight until like 3 more turns. And 3 more turns, that's like forever in the future. And now we've managed to clean up this front line again. And now I am much stronger. I can't really deal with these copters, but these copters are paper thin. And what are they going to do against all these tanks on high defense terrain? Got a really nice kind of joint positioning formed here where there's just not enough unit count to really be able to contest this anymore. And the defensive line, it bent, it sagged, but it held. And now, I mean, it's it's still a little spooky, down 13k plus the 20k, about 33k. And now we build another bomber because I'm expecting, like, surely more Neo tanks are going to be coming, and I can get bombers to the fight really, really quick. And it's all about the tempo. So this city gets capped. This city gets capped. We see the T-Copter actually go through the city, so we know that there's a T-Copter down here. But now this Piperunner is showing its value because I'm able to just to chill in this area. And even though my opponent has more stuff down in this corner, he's not strong enough to be able to dive in here. And because he's not strong enough to be able to dive in here, I'm strong enough to be able to at least, I can't contest the cities themselves and try to contest that strong terrain, but I can get next to the cities and I can slow this down. And now finally, he has to disengage. So it was a 3-turn battle, but finally, I've managed to stop the bleeding, and my reinforcements from this favorable position on the map, from this airport, especially this airport, giving me so much extra firepower in my army because I'm able to bring like 22k from that bomber in 2 turns to the battle. So like I have more stuff, even though like overall the amount of stuff I have on the map available to fight is not that high, I'm able to utilize more of it in the battle. And it's just enough to stop the tipping point and tip it back the other way. And now, with the power, I've positioned these guys 4 away because I know I can CO power and delay these caps. But to the victor go the spoils, and the spoils are all the units in this corner. We get to clean all these up. We're just getting some free charge there. We actually get the 30% roll to one-shot that guy on the city, so that's pretty cool. And this power is really good because this, again, 4 tiles away, gets to cap the city 1 turn faster. Adder, tempo, really important. And now we can just go in here. We clean up this infantry. What is ever going to be able to contest this corner? We don't even need to fight here in the long run. Like, we can lose this stuff. As long as we just deny access, we're going to get our 4k lead back. We go in here, block access to the anti-air. And now, like, what are these copters going to do? If you can't reach this anti-air, you can't send copters into fight here. If you only have copters, it's not enough. You need to have a balance. And this mech, with one ammo left, this mech is covering the anti-air in case a tank does show up here. And now we can use our power to cover this corner, pick off the infantry here, smack the tank. We know that certainly there's like an artillery in this forest because we haven't forgotten about that. But taking out the tank, it forces a lot of attacks to go onto this tank, which is going to protect this anti-air, which now that the T-Copter is dead, and it also protects the Piperunner. Like, so this tank being low means that nothing can really reach this Piperunner. And I'm likely to be safe. Like, I'll probably lose a lot of this stuff, but this guy's down to 4, so this city's not going to be capped anytime soon. And we're in pretty good shape. Like, we can delay this again with this tank if we need to, or with this recon. And we've got anti-air covering everything as well. So all of a sudden, like, as long as we don't get wiped out down here now, we're in a really strong position. And you can see things have finally flipped. Now the KD is back in my favor. Unit or army value is still like a little questionable with the Piperunner accounting for 20k, but this is the best that the game has looked for a long time. And now, with the income lead that I've had over the course of the game, it's entirely possible that my army is bigger now on the map, and maybe even by a decent amount. So the artillery pops this tank, but he's at 1 HP because I've got the power and I'm on the city. So just having that extra 10-10 like almost every turn is adder, really making a big difference. And you charge up so fast because there's just so much money available on the map. Does get the tank there, but having to fight into these infantry, not able to capture the city. So sure, I'm losing some units, but I'm not losing these cities. And the longer this goes on, I'm going to be getting this top left, and that income advantage that I worked so hard for is going to be right back where it used to be. We do see a Neotank reveal, but it just takes out a recon. That's not especially scary, and we anticipated this. We had the bomber ready. Won't quite make it this turn, but we have nothing to fear from the Neotank. And now these copters are trading into these units, but I've got the anti-air. I was anticipating what I needed to in my buys about 3 turns ago, and now it's where it needs to be. And now we just keep trading. We don't even need to fight over here. There's nothing capping. We can just go back and stall again. Fight around our Piperunner. Send in this anti-air basically as a sacrifice. Like we'll keep trading here, but trading is fine. We're just controlling the territory. This mech is just going to be in the way. Copter goes in to be an obnoxious wall in the sky. And now, like, what can this Neotank hit that doesn't get blown up by this bomber the next turn? So the Neotank, just not really that scary. And we're disengaging a little bit here. Sending the bomber back far enough that even with block rock, somehow this anti-air can never reach the bomber, just being very, very safe. And this 4 HP Neotank doing amazing work. It cleaned up a lot of stuff, even though it was pretty damaged. And now I can just disengage in the bottom right. He's not strong enough to die for this Piperunner. And so now, like, what can you do? You can't really take these properties anymore, because I can just sit here forever, and with the Piperunner here, you can't put anything in front of these cities. So I'm always going to have access to, like, send in 1 infantry at a time with the 2 comm towers, and I can just delay these forever until you run out of infantry. And it's day 24. Day limit's day 35. And whoever has the most cities, or most properties overall, is going to win at day 35. So having this top left corner, even if I don't route my opponent off the map, I'm in a good shape to just win by running out the clock. So let's see what happens here. So Neotank comes in, takes out the anti-air. That's fine, but that's going to allow us to trade him with the bomber. This mech hanging on for dear life here. We do actually get popped pretty hard here. We got slapped down pretty hard. But this does mean that all the reinforcements are coming this way. So this push is not really getting sustained. We know we're going to end up... We're not going to end up breaking down here in the bottom right. And now all we really need to do is we just we trade. We trade anti-air for copter, bomber for neotank, and we take out this anti-air. And ideally, by the time all is said and done, we will power again, and that 4 moves with the extra infantry movement will let me get to this city. I can flip this one. And it's so important. This infantry has been so important because I have no other infantry over here. And part of the biggest reason why I was able to win the fight is because I had built up a big infantry lead in this fight. And so many vehicles had to slam into all my infantry down here. And so they just absorbed a lot of the fighting. And I had that one guy left over. And now he's flipping the entire top left corner because I can just stall the fight over here. I don't need to win the fight. Just stalling it long enough with the adder power is enough to really lock in that advantage. So we're just going to do a little bit of trading here. Get as much charge as we can. And now we're almost back up to full again. So there's a good chance we can even get, I think, like a 3rd turn in a row of side slip. And we just kill the infantry. You kill the infantry, like, what is ever going to capture these properties again? And I go in here, I might as well keep trading, right? Like, it's okay. Now we side slip. Purely for delaying. And for capturing the city a little faster. We go in here. All the infantry are damaged. What is going to capture this stuff? What is ever going to flip those cities? It's going to take forever. And everything else, well, it can just chill out. We don't need to commit more stuff. Like, there's an artillery here. So we're probably going to lose all this stuff, but it's okay. Because eventually the clock's going to run out. And I am reinforcing a lot of tanks down here. So once like these guys arrive, we should be strong enough to wipe this out. We just play very defensively. We know we're likely to get block rocked next turn. So we just move the Piperunner back to a very safe position. Because this Piperunner is making this, it's really the linchpin of this defense. So we just got to keep him safe and be patient. And we know there's not really any pressure on the cities. So unfortunately, I guess the anti-air is going to be fine. We do get wiped out a little bit. But it looks like the bomber is going to live. So that's pretty critical. We do lose all the stuff in the corner, but we've got more recons. Pretty good shape. And now we're starting to lose in the top left, but it doesn't matter. We're losing the top left, but we've got the cities. And there's no infantry for our opponent. So we can lose the top left corner. It's actually okay to lose the top left corner now. We can just keep trading. And no block rock, by the way, which is pretty good call, I think, by my opponent. Block rock wouldn't really have done anything. So this bomber, I'm just going to force him to have an anti-air show up. I'm going to keep trading stuff in this bomber until it dies. And we might lose all this stuff in the top corner. If we don't lose the bomber this turn, then the game just ends. But we've got our cities. Like, we got what we came for. We got what we came for. And maybe we can think about getting this city in the following turn, depending on what shows up. But now, this area is not important anymore. All we need to do is we've built up a lot down here. And this is the right time to build up a lot. Because now, one blow can consolidate this corner. And then we're back into the game state that we were in earlier, where I'm up 4K, we're running out of time, we're day 26, my opponent's got to flip some properties before the time runs out, and they don't have the infantry to do it. And that's what's really going to win me the game. Because if we look at like the fighting, like, I mean, this is the best it's ever been. Like, we're even in units killed, and now like the damage. Well, even now, if you account for the Piperunner, it's about even. And I've had this income lead for a pretty substantial amount of time. So I know my army is likely to be in good shape compared to my opponents. Boy, did it look real bad for a couple of turns. Holy cow. It could have been very different. I'm just spamming out units. Block rock comes, breaks through that. We do see an infantry, which is interesting. So we kind of know like what the timer is going to be, like how long it's going to take for these cities to potentially be under threat again. And there is an anti-air showing up, taking out the bomber. So kind of unfortunate, but it's okay. And recon comes in here, and you can tell he wants to dive on this. It's too much. Too much, and now this recon is just going to die to the Piperunner. And now the retreat has to happen down here. So now, if you retreat here, the only place you can win and get properties back is the top left. So it makes it very easy for me to decide like how I want to handle these next turns. So we just pop this recon, we go and we trade into the copter. And now we know we're strong here. We can just go in and clean up whatever we can afford to clean up. And now the block rock's down, and we've got full bar. So now this is our power swing in terms of CO powers. Don't need to go too crazy. We've cleaned out all the infantry, so these guys are no longer in threat. And now I want to kind of shift the rest of these guys to the center, because I'm thinking we're safe down here. I want to try and shift stuff back to the other side, because that's where I'm going to need the stuff in a couple of turns. I'm not going to make the same mistake I made earlier, where I was one turn too late in shifting the tanks from the bottom right to the top left. We're going to be on top of it, and we're going to properly anticipate what we need to anticipate. So now everything to the top left, we're kind of cheating over here. So like we're in this position, cheating. We have the potential to try and attack this comm tower. Or if we don't like what we see, we go this way. So we see a lot of tanks up here. So we can tell that our opponent is still committing almost entirely to this top left corner. Retreats here. Retreats here. And so the opponent is kind of just telling us what they are thinking about in terms of their reinforcements. We do see the tank show up, so I think this is a new tank. So at least one tank is being diverted to this front, but we know that almost everything is getting pushed up to the top left in terms of reinforcements. And I kind of like what I see here in the bottom right here. So I see at least an opportunity to maybe go for this comm tower here, because I've got the charge, so we're going to get 2 side slips in a row now, and block rock is not going to be for a very long time. And I see all this vehicle reinforcement up here, and now I've been reinforcing down here for a while. I think I might actually be strong enough down here to go for something. So let's send in a recon. We'll at least take out a unit, and we'll just kind of see what we see and see if there's anything to be done down here. This is pretty interesting. We can be pretty confident that the artillery is not in here, which means the artillery is either probably back here or over here in this corner, which is like really, really far back. But we ought to be able to send a lot of stuff in here and build a wall around this comm tower and really put the screws in. Because if I get this comm tower, I'm never losing it again. Not with this Piperunner. We're going in. And now actually we see this copter here. So now we know that the artillery has to be in this forest almost certainly. There's basically nowhere else it can be. So all we need to do is we just kind of set up a line here, clean all this stuff out, and then put some stuff around the comm tower, and you have to fight into that without a CO power, and I've got the extra defense from mine. So we trade into that tank. We're probably going to lose some of these guys, but that's okay because they are a wall. They are in the way. That is what they were there to do, and they already got some value. So the worst it can be is just, you know, 2 tanks for 1 tank in the worst case. But now this allows me to use my remaining units, and we see the anti-air positioning. So we see that this guy can wall here without being in any danger from the anti-air. And now you have to find a way through. Otherwise, I'm going to get this comm tower. And if I get the comm tower, it's basically the end, because there's going to be no way to equalize the properties in the remaining 7 days if this comm tower falls. And now we are just chilling out in the top left. We get to play defense here. Spamming copters. We're starting to get to the point now where we've got so much money at 29K. It almost matters more of just pure being able to get stuff to the front lines as quickly as possible. So I'm going with a preemptive fighter because I know that my opponent is investing really, really heavily into copters. Now this copter was sent from here last turn, but I'm thinking as we get close to the end, my opponent might be building a fighter themselves. They might be building a bomber, because those are units that can get to the front line very quickly, and my opponent needs something to get to the front line very quickly before time runs out, because otherwise you can build neo-tanks, you can build infantry, but they're going to have to walk somewhere or get flown somewhere in order to be able to influence anything on the map and flip these properties. Otherwise, time is just going to run out. So maximizing the tempo. Let's see what our opponent has in store now. Goes in here. This was not a roll, by the way, because I had the power up. Otherwise, there would be a chance that this could one-shot. Actually, I think it would be a... Maybe it is a roll. Actually, I think it might have been a roll. I don't know. It's close. The power is helping me a lot. So here's the big attack on the top left corner. So my opponent is hoping, okay, I need to... If I can flip these 2 properties and deny this, then maybe there's some way that the situation can be stabilized. But here... not able to KO this this tank here with the infantry. Has to use the recon to finish it off. And now there's just not enough left. I've just got more stuff here. And this wall, it ends up holding. I don't actually... I'm not totally sure that he could have broken through anyway. It would have been kind of a Pyrrhic victory, I think. But regardless, this turn is going to be bloody because finally I am in the exact position I need to be to deal with everything in the top left corner. I was ready. I correctly anticipated the attack. I've got power up, and now I've got 3 comm towers. First, we'll do a little bit of trading here just to charge as much as we can before we burn the power. Now we use the power to get maximum efficiency. This mech. You are the greatest mech. The greatest mech. 1 HP, 0 ammo, takes out the anti-air. What a hero. Incredible stuff. And now that allows the recon to come up here. We just move that 1 HP infantry to be in the way. And now it's all gone. And look at this. This positioning is just really nice. All the copters are in the back. I've even got 1 extra copter. That's just kind of my bonus copter. So I had more than enough to repel this assault. And now it's looking like a foregone conclusion. We can kind of speed things up here. We look at the deaths. You can see finally I've pulled ahead. We're almost even now if you discount the Piperunner in army value, but I've had an income lead for the majority of the game at this point. Bomber shows up here. This is a pretty Pyrrhic attack, and now I just get to clean up what is left over. Everything top left is taken care of. We actually get some fighter value. Killing the 4 HP guy. We don't really care if he gets counterattacked into, because killing that fighter, or killing that copter, allows us to reach the bomber with the other anti-air. So he did his job, he opened a path to the bomber. That bomber doesn't end up getting any value. Recons now take out the artillery here, and now the position is just totally broken down. And now by day 30, one final block rock is able to deny this for another turn. But this is the end. Whew. Wow. What a game. I was really sure that this thing was over by day 18, but we exploited the mistake. We held on by the thinnest of margins, and the cumulative advantage that we had built up over the course of the game was enough to finally stop the bleeding, and I was able to reclaim the advantage. And then from there, I wasn't going to let this slip out of my hands twice. And so I am through to my, I guess overall, my 5th consecutive Fog tournament finals, including the Quack Cup. And wow, what a run. What a run. We we live on. What a great game though. And I think we should say, like, BestMike played awesome for the majority of this game. Played really, really good. And let's turn on the lights here a little bit. And let's go back through this thing. And let's see what happened. Because there's actually some interesting stuff happening in the darkness that I didn't know about. So obviously I didn't know about this base being taken a day later than mine. You can see once we start to get to this turn, so I'm at 20k now. And now he's only at 18k. Now he equalizes. And now I'm to 23k. Then still at 20k. 24k, 22k. What I didn't know was that not only did I have this 1k lead from the city, but actually just my curve in general was just faster across the board. And so what I thought was maybe like a 4k income lead cumulative over the first couple of turns actually was probably more like a 10k lead in practice. If we look at the income here, you can see that, yeah, I'm like 160 to 146. So that's you know, about like a 6k cumulative lead or so. And now it's 26k to 22, 26 to 24. So it's like every turn is about 2k, when I thought it was every turn was going to be about 1k. And then this was the turn where things really kind of got crazy, because then it was 2k, but then it swung to 7k this turn. So just the way the timing worked out, this was a huge difference. And you can see now that this income differential is starting to be like, you know, it's about a 30k difference. Now it's on my turn, so you kind of have to take the income and kind of cut it in half to figure out like where the equal point is. But I'm basically up almost 20k in cumulative income ahead of where you would expect to be in an even game. And so that was actually, I thought that by this point I was maybe up by like 10k or maybe even a little bit less, but it was actually much more like 20k. And so when we get to the fighting up here in the top left, first of all, this is a really good move. He's really well positioned, and I kind of underestimated how good his positioning was going to be, because he took out this recon, and then he had everything exactly in the right spot to be able to slip a lot of it up into this corner. And that just, it caught me off guard, because it's pretty difficult to actually execute that. You have to be in a really good position to begin with in order to even set that up. And so I didn't realize how much he had committed to this top left corner. This really caught me off guard. And then by the time I go in here, actually he's really, really set up to punish this, which feels like it should be safe for me, but actually it's not safe at all. So I get clobbered here, and now you can see that even though I've had like this income lead, like overall the unit count or the army value, I mean, it's still pretty close. Now, I thought it was way worse for me because I'm down like 40k in damage done, and then that's including the Piperunner. So the Piperunner is distorting this a little bit, right? So really, I'm kind of at like 180k because the Piperunner is like theoretical unit value. It's not helping me in the fights. So I'm down, you know, like 30k, but I've got about 30k of income as well. So it's not. I actually misread my position in this game, and if I had more accurately read it, I probably. Well, I certainly wouldn't have bonked this tank in. I could have just afforded to trade here. I could have taken this 1 HP copter back, just trade into this trade in the copter, use the tank on this anti-air, and then probably send the recon in just to delay this a turn, and then set up the defensive lines. And I'd probably get block rocked anyway, but I end up getting block rocked from a position where this anti-air is taken out as well, and then I'm going to keep this city for another turn. So I kind of let the tilt get the better of me a little bit, but it just goes to show that it can happen to anybody. You can see here that he actually has a copter kind of dedicated to this defensive line here. But you can see, I want to point out something, okay? Let's see, where is the turn I'm looking for? Okay, so yeah. So it's this turn. This is a really critical moment. Look at all this infantry here. Like, there is just a lot of unit count here. And even, like, you look at what I have here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, this is 6 here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So in terms of unit count, I'm shifting all this away. There is a lot of unit count and a lot of infantry tied up here, and it's very, very far back. It's way too defensive. And what happens here is when this next turn happens, this ball of infantry here, only one of these infantry actually shifts to the other side, and all the rest of it stay here. And this is like one of those subtle big mistakes, because the fight is happening over here. And if all those infantry had been aggressively shifting to where the fight was, they would have arrived by like this turn and been there to be in the way of other stuff. And this fight was so close in terms of tipping one way or the other that having that extra unit count really could have made a big difference. And especially the T-Copter, like the T-Copter could have been pushing infantry this way as well. But I have all this infantry here, 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 here. So all these guys absorb a lot of the blow of all these very valuable units. And then the mech survive, and the Neo-Tank shows up, and all the anti-airs are ready. And it's just enough. But ultimately, let's call it what it was. It's a winning position for green on this turn. But you have to know what the situation is. You have to know if you go in here, you clean out these guys, and then you're in the kind of the same position because you've got this little C tile here working as a choke. So along with the forest tile here, you just eat this for free. You eat this for free, and then you stay here. And you consolidate with another turn's worth. And then And then you block rock into this if you want. Or you don't even have to. You just take your time, you consolidate here, and you go push the other corner. But the one thing that you definitely cannot do is you cannot block rock, take this stuff out, and then also commit to this position. You can't do both. There's not quite enough stuff. And when he committed in here, again, like it looks like I'm okay because I'm like up 35k in army value, but it's really misleading because 20k of that is in the Piperunner. So I'm really at 15k, which is about what you would expect to be like even army values overall, given the reinforcements and the income that is yet to be spent. And so by this turn, it's like, 215k to about 152, because we're excluding the Piperunner, down 10 units. But, it could have been, all these guys gone, and then I can't extend into this, and then the follow-up block rock with 2 Neo tanks, fighting in here, blowing up these mechs. You gotta wait to block. You gotta wait to block rock. That's really the issue. I think. I understand why he wanted to do it, because he wanted to use this recon to get all the way in and hit something, and so you have to preemptively block rock to do that. But I think if you're gonna do that, you gotta send this guy in first. Just send him in first. Hit this. See what you see. If you don't like it, don't commit. And then choose to do the block rock after, or don't. But the preemptive block rock, I think, you block rocked is like, okay, like this is my moment. I'm just going to send everything. And it needed to be just a little bit different. And then if you make a big enough mistake, you take a fight in a bad enough position, now you're stuck here fighting. And this is 2 turns away from the airport. It's kind of right in the middle of all my reinforced lines. And it is incredibly far away from all of Jake's reinforced lines. Because this base, vehicles have to go all the way around. It's super slow. You're almost 4 vehicle moves to get there. This is the closest base. This is, bordering on 3. Might even be 4. Airport is 4. For sure, for like the edge here. And so you're fighting, it's 2 tank moves versus 4. And unless you win immediately, the reinforce disadvantage is just going to swing things in a really huge way. Combined with my reinforcements being 4k up from the previous turn's income advantage. It was just enough to finally win the fight here. And by this point, now it's pretty cooked. By this turn, it's basically stabilized, and now the income equalizes for 1 turn. But I get to clean up the stuff that disengaged, and now the unit count is devastatingly in my favor. And I make the right calls in the bottom right corner to stall this out, knowing that the longer this fight goes on, the better it's going to be for me. I don't have to necessarily clear all this stuff out. I just need to deny the cities, take advantage of the Piperunner that I've got still alive, keep trading, and eventually it will be enough. And then finally, the opportunity came for me to go for the final blow here on the comm tower, and we take it. And then we're finally strong enough to decisively win the game. So yeah, really well played to BestMike. This is the closest I think anybody's ever come to taking me out. Probably should have won this, but really well done. This is a tough map. I think I was cleaner in a lot of the small things early on. And then I got a little slop with some of my decision making in the mid game. And got a little bit tilted, played a little bit loose. I mean, I've been playing pretty loose in this tournament because I want to have some fun with it. I want to go for some risky plays. I want to just play pretty free, not necessarily pure optimal moves all the time. Just kind of go for some risky stuff. It's fun. But it got me in hot water here, and I thought I was going to kind of cruise through this game, and then all of a sudden, it was not a happy cruise. But nonetheless, we're through, and the finals are going to be a ways off on this one. I think we're the second out of 8 divisions to wrap, and there's a lot of divisions that have multiple games in round 3. I think this is going to be 2 or 3 months before the finals get started, if I'm being perfectly honest. It maybe even a little bit longer than that, so we'll see. But when that happens, we'll be there. And there's a couple big names left in this tournament. There's a possibility of Jackleyman and Laska Larnar playing each other in their division finals. So that's one you're going to want to tune into. That's going to be pretty exciting if that ends up happening. Rip is still in this tournament. I'm going to have to play his round 4. So that'll be pretty exciting. And the other divisions are going to be pretty exciting too. So we'll see how that plays out. But in the meantime, the Smacky Cup 5 Grand Finals are going on right now. We're early into that game. That is against Laska Larnar. So that is a rematch from Smacky Cup 4, the Grand Finals. And shout out to Laska Larnar, by the way. This is the 3rd time that Laska Larnar has reached the Grand Finals in 4 Smacky Cups. There's only one other player that's ever accomplished that. So that's crazy consistency. And it's a Jess versus Jake game. Actually, I'm playing Jess. So, and it's on Scavenger. So when that ends, obviously, you'll be the first to hear about that. But that's one worth tuning in for. And then in Quack Cup 6, I'm in the grand finals there, awaiting the winner of Jackleyman and Gimme Candy, I believe, is the other player. So I don't know too much about Gimme Candy. I think this is maybe their first deep tournament run, but could be me versus Jackleyman again for the 4th tournament in a row where we have to play each other. So stay tuned for that one. That one's, I imagine, soon but not too soon. Probably a couple weeks away from that one kicking off. So I don't think we'll see as many videos in September as we have in August, unfortunately. But once the Quack Cup finals wrap up, there is another Quack Cup that's actually going to be starting, I think, in October that is going to be very interesting. High Funds Fog. So you have to bet that I will be participating in that tournament and trying to make another deep run in another Fog tournament. So that's on the horizon, but the next Smacky Cup I don't believe isn't until next year. Maybe even not until like February or something like that, January, February, because the cycles are going to slow down a little bit. So at some point, these tournament game volumes are going to slow down a bit, and I may end up making a return to Global League. There's been a lot of drama, good drama, not bad drama, on the Global League leaderboards lately with a lot of the top players being active. Poland kind of vaulting into the number 1 spot briefly. But Rip and Jay Talkland are playing a High Funds game right now, so that's pretty exciting. And I've always been kind of hanging, I think, 12 ELO behind Rip on the all-time Fog leaderboard. So who knows? It might come time for me to make a stab at 1700 in Fog. But we're gonna wait for these grand finals to play out first because I want to just focus on them and not try to overcommit myself. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this replay. This was a really fun one. Again, well played to BestMike. Really good showing. Played way beyond a 1300 ELO level in this game and really gave me everything that I could handle. But until then, enjoy the end of your summer. Look forward to a good fall, and we will see you in the grand finals in these upcoming videos. Thanks a lot. See you.